So one of the questions I get most often, which I've touched on a little bit in the presentation, that people are always asking me this question, and it's about the mentality of climbing and what drives people to climb and how do they balance the risks. And I always find that it's a conversation that we can have like 100 different directions, and there are 100 different answers that you can have. So how do you approach questions about that from individuals who approach you and say, well, why do you do this? And it's so dangerous. And I mean, I kind of know what I sort of have learned from this journey, but I'd like to hear your feedback on that.
Okay, so what drives one to climb? I think it's, so the best I have found is really from research myself, because that's the best way to really articulate it. And the best person I have found that articulated it the best was a psychologist at Duke University named Dan Ariely. And he's a social psychologist. He works on reward systems. So reward systems are very simple. It says what motivates and drives human behavior. Okay, I go to work because I get paid. Being paid means something to me, therefore I work. Simple stuff. So he looks at mountaineering and he says, okay, so people go to mountaineering either because they get paid or because they go and they have fun. Right? Wrong. He says, wait a minute, if you read books on mountaineering, they're filled with misery. You know, all these books on mountaineering, really, really tall, high mountains, they're filled with frostbite and cold weather and, you know, hard conditions and, you know, people are miserable. There's nobody having fun. So he's suddenly perplexed at the reward system of the mountaineer. He says, surely somebody would go to the top and they would come down and say, I've made a terrible mistake. This
doesn't happen.
This I will never do again. Because that's the human nature and human behavior response. And he says, instead, they wait a little bit and they go again. So in the human behavior model, the mountaineer breaks the traditional model. And so he says, there's something wrong. It means that the mountaineer is not driven by the traditional reward model of just money. They're driven by something higher, a higher purpose. They're driven by a higher reward system. It's more like, you know, wanting to reach the top, life's peak. You know, it's about fighting, you know, a bigger battle and, you know, fighting the challenge. So there's something more to it for the mountaineer. It's not simple. And so it really was fascinating, you know, research. And but there's something very simple in there. And what's simple in there is a very simple statement that says, what you have to work for, you value. And almost the more you work for it, the more you value it. So that makes sense. And in fact, people have known about this for a long time. Advertising agencies, product development companies, the likes. If you go back to Betty Crocker and those little cake mixes that you see in the grocery shelves, you know, they used to put the eggs in there, they used to put the flour in there, and you just added water, and sales tanked. And then all of a sudden, they took all that stuff and you know, put it, you know, took the eggs and took the flour and said, no, you know, we're gonna take care of it so that you have to put them in. So you have to do more work. And then sales went up because they found that if you took the cake home and you had to add the eggs and add the flour, people were doing more work. And they valued it more. Welcome IKEA. How much work do you do when you buy IKEA and you drive 50 miles to go to develop and put together all that furniture?
But it's so satisfying when you finally finish, right?
Well, if you finally finish, right? Yeah. So people have known about this. And so the meaningful work of a mountaineer is being in the outdoors, being in control of your own destiny, doing fulfilling and meaningful work to you, and being in control, and also in control of your own, I'll use this word, futility, not fertility, futility. And that's important because futility, you never know whether you're going to summit or not. So how much effort you're going to put into that summit is down to you. And I think of futility as like the story of, oh, what's the Greek mythology? Sisyphus, where he has to roll the
Mm,
boulder up, and every day it gets to the summit and it rolls down, and he's the punishment for Zeus. That's futility.
mhm,
You're in charge of that, how much effort you will put in.
mhm,
But at the end of the day, it's not the risk that attracts the climber to the
mhm,
mountain, it's the reward. And the reward is almost like a equals parentheses, right? A summation of, um, let's say, the challenge, the payment, if there is a payment, ownership, identity, the pride, everything that goes into this all makes up everything that it gives you back.
mhm.
Which
Right.
is,
The reward isn't just the summit, it's every step to get there and all of the twists and turns it takes.
yep,
Yeah.
everything that you
Yeah.
learn, the journey, and
Yeah.
how you can work backwards into this, by the way, if you're ever unsure. And this is, of course, definitive, is if you ever look at a climber's epitaph, you will never see, herein lies a person who wasted their life, right?
Never.
An epitaph on a climber will always be like, herein lies somebody who died doing what they love.
Mhm.
And
Isn't that true? Yes.
that
It
is the
is so
ultimate proof.
simple. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank